This is section A4, which is where we're going to take scientific notation and use it to do multiplication problems. So to start, let's review scientific notation. We've done it in each of our 2 units. The first unit, we took a number that had a whole number part, and we wrote it in scientific notation. Remember, in scientific notation, you can only have one number in front of the decimal point. That's all. Okay? One number and then the decimal point, and then if there are other important numbers, you write them down, and then you make it times 10 to a power. So if I have 50.1, the decimal point is not in the correct place, so I moved it right there. And so that now makes it 5.01, and you move the decimal point one place over to the whole number side, so that's why my exponent was 1. Okay? In the second chapter, when we took a decimal like 0.284, well, I still just want one number and then the decimal point. So now I'm going to move the decimal point this way and make it 2.84. But because I moved it to where the decimals are, instead of it being a positive 1, it would now be a negative 1. So if you move it to where the whole numbers are, remember your exponent's positive. If you moved it backwards, then your exponent's negative. If I have 0.0007, I want one number and then the decimal point. So I want to move this decimal point 1, 2, 3, 4 times to get it where I want it. So I would have 7 times 10, and I moved it in the negative direction because it's a decimal, and that's why I would have a negative 4. Notice I didn't put all the zeros because these zeros are not important. This zero was important because it's in the middle of some numbers. If you have 7,000, I still want it to just be 7. But here was the understood decimal place, and I moved it 1, 2, 3, 4. You moved it 4 places over on the whole number side, so that's why it was a positive 4. So you need to remember, if you're moving it to the positive direction, to the whole number direction, it's a positive. If you're moving it towards the decimal direction, it's a negative. Now, if you have a problem that looks like it's in scientific notation, but the number is not correctly written in scientific notation, that's where you need to simplify it to get it looking correctly. So if I have 50.1 times 10 to the third, well, we know 50.1 is not in correct scientific notation. We said you need to move it, and that would make it 5.01 times 10 to the 1. But I already have a 10 to the third. So I'm going to put my 10s together. If you had 1 of them and 3 of them, then that would make you now have 4 of them. And so this would be your simplified answer, 5.01 times 10 to the 4th. Fix the number and then combine the powers on the x's. If you've got 7,000 times 10 to the negative 6, remember we moved it backwards. So now you've got 7 times 10 to the 1, 2, 3. And then I'm putting that with 10 to the negative 6. Well, if you combine a 3 with a negative 6, that would make that 7 times 10 to the negative 3. So put your powers together, and that's the new power of 10 once you fix the number part. Okay? So we're going to use these 2 ideas now to do multiplication problems. If it's a multiplication problem, you want to make sure, do whatever the numbers are. If I need to multiply them, multiply them. Then, if they are not in scientific notation, you need to fix it. You need to simplify it like we talked about over here. And then your last step would be to combine your powers of 10. So, example. If you've got 0.63 times 10 to the 4th, that's just a simplified one. There's nothing to multiply. This guy's not in the right place. I need to move it here and make it 6.3. When you moved it this way, that made it have 10 to the negative 1 power. So you'll put a negative 1 with your 4, and that would make it 10 to the third. If you have 40.1 times 10 to the negative 3, well, this time I needed to move the decimal point that way, and it would make it 4.01. You moved it this way, so that was a 10 to the first. You put 10 to the first with 10 to the negative 3, and now you have 10 to the negative 2, because 1 and negative 3 give me negative 2. If it's a long multiplication problem, 6.2 times 10 to the 4th, and I'm going to multiply it times 5 times 10 to the negative 2. I'm going to multiply my numbers, 6.2 times 5, and that would give me 31. And then I know that 31 is not in correct scientific notation. I would need to move it and make it 3.1, and this would be 10 to the first because you moved it to the whole number side. So now you've got 10 to the first and 10 to the fourth and 10 to the negative 2. So my next step is going to be to combine all my powers of 10. A 4 and a 1 give you 5, plus a negative 2 would give you 3. So it would be times 10 to the 3, and that would be your final answer. Okay? One more time, let's do another example. If I have 0.55 times 10 to the third, and I'm going to multiply that times 4 times 10 to the negative 6. I'm going to multiply the number parts. 0.55 times 4 would give me 2.2. Now, 2.2 is in scientific notation. I don't need to move the decimal point any. I've got a good number. So all I have to do now is put together my powers of 10. So I have 3 of them here and a negative 6 there. That would give me a negative 3, because 3 plus a negative 6 gives you negative 3. So if it's not in scientific notation, you must fix it and get your scientific number part, and then put together all the powers of 10 to see what goes with it. And that would be how you multiply using scientific notation.